The Chronicles of Trailis record that Alaric's approach reshaped commerce. Competitors, bewildered, noticed that his caravans survived droughts, evaded bandits, and kept morale even during famine. Scholars claimed luck. Alaric smiled knowingly. It was no accident, but the architecture of inclusion. A merchant who commands minds gains compliance. One who invites minds gains commitment. Compliance bends under strain. Commitment endures storms. Beyond commerce, the principle rippled into family life. Alaric, once a distant father, began asking his children, "How should we celebrate the harvest? What games gladden your hearts?" His daughters planned feasts, his sons designed contests, and joy replaced stiff tradition. Servants observed this openness and mirrored it, planning their duties with pride. The household ceased to be a fortress of orders and became a hearth of ideas. Years hence, travelers described Alaric's markets as alive with invention. Street vendors arranged stalls after brainstorming sessions. Apprentices proposed trade fairs. Guard captains timed patrols after nightly debriefs. Innovations sprouted like vines after rain. The kingdom's identity shifted from hierarchy to harmony, from do as told to let us build. Merchants from afar marveled at, why do his people labor with such fire? The answer whispered along alleyways, because he trusts us with his ear before he trusts us with his gold. Alaric learned, too, that humility attracts wisdom. By confessing ignorance and inviting counsel, he disarmed pride. A caravan master once wept openly, saying, "No lord has ever asked me what I think. I will ride through fire for you." Such loyalty cannot be purchased, only nurtured. Empowerment begets excellence not by force, but by freeing human dignity from its cage. In councils abroad, emissaries doubted his methods. "Isn't leadership about certainty?" they asked. Alaric countered, "Certainty blinds, curiosity opens." He explained that an empire of silenced voices is an empire brittle as glass. An enterprise tuned to its people is supple as willow, bending yet unbroken. This insight echoed across guilds, inspiring reforms far beyond Trailis. Even as age silvered his hair, Alaric clung to the ritual of asking. He convened listening days, wandering warehouses with no agenda but ears wide open. Workers spoke freely, grievances surfaced early, and trust renewed like springtime floods. The culture evolved beyond dependence. Foremen solved conflicts before petitions ever reached him. Leadership, he realized, was not the art of answers, but the art of unlocking answers hidden in other souls. When Alaric's twilight years arrived, his caravans stretched from the Cobalt Sea to the Obsidian Dunes. Envoys hailed him the merchant who listens. Wealth he possessed, yet the legacy he prized was different. Generations of men and women who believed their minds mattered, who rose above mere wage to craft destiny with their hands and insight. Long after ledgers faded, stories of that inclusion warmed the firesides of apprentices and heirs. And so the chronicle closes with the truth Dale Carnegie would etch into timeless counsel. To empower others by asking for their ideas is to transform compliance into conviction. Authority may build walls, but inclusion builds bridges sturdy enough to span centuries. When a leader opens ears before mouth, he awakens hearts before hands. Alaric's empire endures not in monuments, but in the living memory of every voice once silenced, now singing, "I was asked, therefore I belonged."
There is, too, a moral dimension. Every individual you meet carries invisible epics, grief disguised as patience, triumph concealed behind modest smiles, ancestral echoes humming beneath casual words. When you honor those layers, you resist reducing a soul to a label. You perceive texture where others see stereotype. Bigotry withers where curiosity thrives. To receive a person's story is to acknowledge shared fragility, an implicit admission that life has weathered you both. That posture dignifies humanity itself, knitting invisible threads between stranger and self. Civilization advances not by clever rebuttals alone, but by sustained willingness to listen beyond ego. Implementing this principle demands discipline. It means tolerating pauses pregnant with unspoken feeling, resisting the itch to fill silence with your triumphs. It means asking open questions. What shaped your thinking? Instead of rhetorical traps. It requires humility to delay your own anecdote until another's is fully delivered, like waiting for a symphony's final note before striking your chord. In practice, this feels slower, yet paradoxically, it accelerates connection. Conversations once shallow gain depth. Collaborations once forced gain flow. Time spent honoring stories repays itself in reduced conflict, richer insight, and alliances resilient under strain. Technology tempts us toward the opposite. Scroll-driven attention fragments listening into shards. Comment threads reward wit over warmth. Yet the hunger to be heard remains primal. Those who master authentic reception amidst digital din become lighthouses in fog. Podcasts flourish not because hosts speak brilliantly, but because they elicit stories listeners crave. Mentorship thrives where elders hush self-display and invite mentees' journeys first. In an economy starved for attention, undivided presence is wealth. Honoring narratives becomes competitive advantage as well as compassion. Imagine a negotiation table tense with suspicion. Lawyers eye one another like hawks, pens poised for battle. Then a mediator interrupts. Before terms, I ask each party to recount how this conflict feels to you and what events brought you here. Walls soften as grievances gain voice. Rage diffuses into articulation. Terms, once snarled in hostility, emerge within hours. The science is plain. When people feel their story validated, their capacity for compromise expands. Justice dressed in empathy outpaces justice shackled to accusation. Travel further into the realm of education. Teachers often drown in syllabi, racing to deposit facts. Yet the mentor who pauses to ask, "How does this concept intersect your experience? Tell me your angle," transforms students from receptacles into co-authors. Knowledge welded to personal narrative sticks like tempered steel. Pupils engaged in self-expression internalize material at neurological depths. The classroom morphs into community. Dropout rates fall, curiosity climbs, and minds awaken not by coercion, but by recognition. Spiritual traditions, too, echo this refrain. Ancient scriptures portray prophets who listen long before pronouncing judgment. Pilgrims pour out laments. Wisdom answers after. Ritual confession, pastoral counseling, silent retreats all revolve around space granted for human narrative. Holiness, in this light, is not thunderous pronouncement, but compassionate reception. The sacred emerges where souls are permitted to unfold unhurried. Modern seekers yearn for precisely this, not slogans, but someone to cradle their saga until they rediscover courage. The fruits of this discipline are subtle yet seismic. A colleague, once skeptical, becomes ally after you trace her professional hardships without interruption. A neighbor, once aloof, invites you to family celebrations after you patiently absorb his immigration journey. Even adversaries recalibrate hostility when they perceive you as custodian of their truth rather than challenger of their pride. Influence rooted in storytelling outlasts manipulation, for it welds relationship to recognition. Memory clings longer to moments of felt understanding than to dazzling oratory. In the grand ledger of human affairs, honoring people's stories before unveiling your own is a currency beyond inflation. It enriches every realm, commerce, romance, governance, kinship, because it dignifies the essence of personhood. To practice it is to carve out an oasis in the desert of self-promotion, a refuge where souls unclench and possibility unfurls. Speak when you must, but first, listen until the marrow of another's experience vibrates in your chest. Then, when your voice finally rises, it will not clang like a trumpet over clamor. It will harmonize like a bell across still water, trusted precisely because it was patient. Influence anchored in empathy endures storms, transcends borders, and carries forward the quiet revolution Dale Carnegie glimpsed, that hearts are won less by argument than by the profound gift of being truly heard.